Somewhere in Japan, in the spring of 1984, a man sits down at a typewriter and begins a letter to the police. It is not a confession, it is an invitation. For the next year and a half, the group behind that typewriter will hold an entire nation hostage. Not with guns, not with bombs, but with candy. They will kidnap one of the country's most powerful executives from his own home. They will put poison on supermarket shelves and tell everyone exactly where to look. They will taunt thousands of detectives by name in letters printed on the front pages of national newspapers. And then, one day, they will simply vanish. No one was ever caught. No one ever confessed. This is the only monster in this country's history who told the police everything, except who he was. It begins on a cold night in March 1984, in a quiet suburb in the industrial west of Japan. Ryo Katsura is 52 years old, the president of Marukai Confectionery, a candy empire whose chocolate is in every school bag, every train station kiosk, every corner store in the country. He is, by any measure, one of the most recognizable business names in Japan. He is also, at this exact moment, in the bath. Two men in ski masks come through the door of his family home. A third waits outside. They have cut the phone line. They know the layout of the house. They know which room his mother lives in and which door his children sleep behind. This has been rehearsed. Katsura is taken, still wet, barefoot, in the night air of early spring and driven away in a stolen van. The family is left with a warning and a dead telephone. The kidnapper's demand arrives soon after, a sum in cash and hundreds of kilograms of gold bullion. The police quietly mobilize. The family prepares to negotiate. The country doesn't know it yet, but the most humiliating manhunt in its modern history has just begun. And then, before any ransom is paid, before any deal is struck, Katsura escapes. 3 days after he was taken, he works free of his restraints in an abandoned warehouse outside the city and walks, in borrowed clothes, into a police box. The kidnapping is over. The story should end here. Instead, it turns into something no one has a name for. Weeks later, vehicles on Marukai property burn in the night. Then a container of acid is found against a company building. Then the letters start. Typed, precise, addressed to Marukai's executives and to the police, demanding money, mocking the company's security, promising that this is only the beginning. Whoever they are, they didn't lose their hostage. They upgraded. Their new hostage is the company itself, its factories, its products, its name. And soon, they will find an even bigger one. Detective Kenji Mishima is 38, an investigator with the prefectural police, one of dozens assigned to what is still being treated as an ordinary extortion case. He will spend the next decade of his life on it. Years later, he will describe the moment he understood this case was different. The day the group gave itself a name. The letter arrives at the newsroom of a national newspaper, addressed to no one, meant for everyone. It ridicules the police investigation in detail the writer should not have known. It jokes. It uses slang, riddles, deliberate misspellings, like a man performing for an audience. And it is signed in careful typewritten characters with a name that will appear on the front page of every paper in the country by morning. The Fox with 9 Faces. Police composite artists have exactly one image to work with. A man seen near one of the failed money drops. Stocky build, short permed hair, and eyes witnesses keep describing the same way. Narrow, watchful, fox-like. The country now has a monster with a name, a face with no name, and a police force that has just been publicly challenged to a game it does not understand yet. The letters keep coming. Over the following months, there will be more than 100 of them, to newspapers, to television stations, to police headquarters, to the companies themselves. They are unlike anything investigators have seen. Kidnappers hide. Extortionists whisper. The Fox publishes. The letters read like a serialized drama written by someone who knows the police procedural from the inside. They name the detectives assigned to the case. They critique the stakeout tactics used at the last failed handoff, accurately. They scold newspapers for printing errors about the case, like an author correcting his own reviews. The tone is the most unsettling part. It is playful, confident, a voice that seems to be enjoying itself, and the whole country reads along in a queasy mixture of fear and fascination because the letters are disturbingly entertaining. Mishima's task force studies every line. The forensics are almost useless. No fingerprints, common paper, a mass-produced typewriter, but the language itself becomes evidence. The mix of dialects suggests the west of the country. The vocabulary suggests someone middle-aged. The inside knowledge suggests something worse, something no one wants to say out loud. Either the group is watching the investigation very closely, or someone inside it is talking. Meanwhile, the extortion campaign becomes a series of games. A money drop is arranged. A courier. A train. Instructions delivered in stages. Get off here. Look under this seat. Read the next note. Walk to this phone booth. Each game is designed like a maze, and each one collapses at the last moment. The group senses surveillance, or the police fumble a handoff between jurisdictions, and the Fox writes another gleeful letter about it the next day. At one of these drops, on a commuter train platform in the rain, an officer sees him, the man matching the composite, the stocky build, the permed hair, the fox eyes, standing too casually near the drop point, watching. The officer has no radio contact in that moment. The operation is split across two prefectural forces that are not sharing frequencies. He hesitates. He has orders not to move without authorization. The entire operation depends on catching the group collecting the money, not loitering near it. The man looks at him, and the officer will swear for the rest of his career that the man knew he was police, knew he was paralyzed by his own chain of command, and that he smiled slightly before he walked away into the crowd. There will be a second sighting, months later. The same face, an expressway service area, a man behind the wheel of a station wagon shadowing a ransom vehicle. A patrol officer, unbriefed on the operation running through his sector that night, stops the wrong car, and in the confusion the station wagon is gone. Its plates come back stolen. Twice, the police have been close enough to touch him. Twice, the machine built to catch him, the largest coordinated investigation in the country's history, over 1 million officer deployments before it ends, has jammed at exactly the wrong moment. The press begins to ask a question that stings more than any letter. How does an organization this large keep losing a game of hide and seek to a man everyone can describe? And then the Fox stops playing games with couriers and cash. In the autumn of 1984, a new letter arrives. Addressed, this time, to moms and dads across the nation. It announces that the group has laced the products of Marukai and its competitors with cyanide and placed them back on store shelves. The letter does not say which stores. It does not say which products. It says, "We have hidden death in the candy aisle. Come find it." To understand what happened next, you have to understand what candy means in a country like this. It is pocket money culture. Children buy sweets on the way home from school, unsupervised, every single day. The candy aisle is the one place in the economy that belongs to 8-year-olds. That is the place the Fox chose to poison. Within days, tainted packages begin to surface, in one city, then another, then a third, hundreds of kilometers apart. The lab results are not a bluff. The chocolate contains cyanide. Enough, in some packages, to kill a child several times over. But there is a detail, and this detail is why this case still gets argued about by criminologists decades later. Most of the poison packages are labeled. Small typed stickers, attached by the group itself. Danger contains poison. Think about what that means. The group had the chemical capability to commit mass murder, and instead engineered mass fear. They wanted the poison found, photographed, reported on the evening news. A labeled poison package doesn't kill people, it kills something else. Trust. Trust in the shelf, in the brand, in the ordinary act of buying a chocolate bar for your kid. It works. The country's confectionery industry goes into free fall. Marukai pulls its products from every store in the nation. Sales collapse. Factory lines stop. Part-time workers are let go by the thousands. Rival companies receive their own letters. Pay us, or your products are next, and the stock market punishes them all. Supermarkets rip entire aisles bare. Mothers inspect wrappers under kitchen lights. For one strange, humiliating season, an industrial superpower is afraid of candy. The police response becomes the largest investigation in national history. Tens of thousands of officers, roadblocks, a reward so large it makes the front pages by itself. The composite sketch of the fox-eyed man is printed on millions of posters, stared at by every commuter in the country. The most famous face in Japan, belonging to no one. Inside the task force, Mishima watches the theories multiply. Disgruntled insider. The letters know too much about company operations. Organized crime, the discipline, the counter-surveillance, the stolen cars. Market manipulation, someone shorting confectionery stocks and collecting on the panic. The numbers people find suspicious trades, but never a name. A radical cell. The operational tradecraft looks almost political. Every theory explains half the evidence. None explains all of it. And here is what gnaws at Mishima. The detail he will still be turning over in retirement. In a year and a half of poison and terror, no one dies. No one is even seriously hurt. Later, unlabeled packages do surface. The group escalates, removing the warning stickers. And still, by luck and mass recalls and sheer national vigilance, not one person is poisoned. Some investigators read that as mercy, extortionists who wanted money and spectacle, not bodies. Mishima reads it differently, and his reading is colder. You don't keep a nation afraid by killing someone. You keep it afraid by proving, again and again, that you could. A death would end the story. Grief has a shape, a funeral, an ending. Fear of the shelf has none. The restraint isn't mercy, it's stagecraft, which raises the question the whole country is asking by now. The question that makes this case unlike any other. What do they actually want? The ransom demands feel almost theatrical. Games designed to be lost. The poison is labeled. The letters read like fan service. A billion-yen crime whose only consistent product is publicity. One national newspaper puts it in a headline that becomes the case's unofficial name, the crime with an audience of 100 million. The Fox writes to the papers about that too. He thanks them for the coverage. By the summer of 1985, the investigation is a machine of a size no police force had ever assembled, and it is grinding itself apart. The task force spans multiple prefectures, and the seams between them are exactly where the Fox lives. Every failed drop has the same anatomy. The group's instructions deliberately drag the couriers across jurisdictional lines, forcing handoffs between forces that train differently, communicate on different frequencies, and, in the quiet, deniable way of large institutions, do not entirely trust each other. Mishima sees it clearly now. The games were never really about collecting money. They were diagnostics. Each one probed the machine, mapped its seams, timed its reflexes. The letters prove it. After each failure, the Fox describes the police's own mistakes back to them with the accuracy of an after-action report. Somewhere, someone with a typewriter understands the bureaucracy of policing better than most policemen. The pressure flows downhill. Officers pull double shifts, staking out phone booths that never ring. Detectives chase thousands of tips. Every stocky man with narrow eyes in the west of Japan is reported by someone, and every report has to be run down. Careers stall. Marriages strain. The reward money brings a flood of false confessions and psychics and hoaxers, each one burning days of manpower. And over it all hangs the sketch. The fox-eyed man on every station wall, a face the entire nation knows and no database can match. He is seen everywhere and found nowhere. Two officers who stood within meters of him replay those minutes for the rest of their lives. In August 1985, the machine's most senior operator pays for its failure. Superintendent Oda has commanded one of the prefectural ends of the investigation through its worst humiliations, including the night the station wagon slipped through. He is, by every account, a proud, dutiful, old-school officer. Colleagues describe a man who took each taunting letter as a personal address. That summer, a scheduled rotation moves responsibility for the case out of his hands. On his last day in command, the day the failure officially becomes his legacy, Superintendent Oda takes his own life. The country goes quiet. Whatever dark entertainment the letters had provided, it curdles overnight. A man is dead. Not from poison on a shelf, but from the weight of 18 months of public defeat. The newspapers that printed the Fox's jokes now print the superintendent's photograph, and the case suddenly has what it never had before: a body, and a funeral, and shame. 5 days later, the Fox writes his final letter. The letter is addressed, like the poison announcement, to the nation itself. It speaks of the superintendent's death. And then, in the same breezy, needling voice that mocked 10,000 detectives, it announces that the group is stopping. The campaign against the confectionery companies is over, it says. It even offers something halfway between a joke and a eulogy. A man died. It would be bad manners to keep playing. The letter closes with a line investigators will read 10,000 times, looking for irony, for code, for anything. We are bad men. Forget about us. And then, nothing. No more letters. No more games. No more tainted packages. An organization that had operated flawlessly, publicly, for a year and a half, that had the whole apparatus of the state pointed at it, walks off stage in a single page of type and is never heard from again. For the task force, the silence is worse than the letters. A criminal in motion leaves traces. A criminal who stops is a ghost. The tip lines quiet down. The stakeouts wind up, one by one. The machine that assembled 1 million officer deployments has nothing left to deploy against. Mishima keeps working it. For years, the linguistic analysis, the stolen vehicles, the suspicious trades in confectionery stock that someone, somewhere, profited from during the panic. A paper trail that goes cold in layered accounts. The child's voice on one of the taped ransom calls, reading instructions, a detail that has haunted every investigator who heard it. Someone in the group used a child, their own perhaps, as an instrument, and that child would be an adult now, walking around with a memory they may not even understand. Nothing lands. The case has evidence in warehouses, thousands of letters, tapes, vehicles, a face on 1 million posters, and not one name. The statute of limitations on the kidnapping runs out first, years later, to national headlines. The crime officially becomes unpunishable while its perpetrators are, presumably, alive and reading those headlines over breakfast. Then, one by one, like lights going out in a building, the other charges expire. The arson, the extortion, the poisonings. Each expiry gets its own grim little ceremony in the press. Each one is a countdown ending in 0. By the time the last statute runs out, in the year 2000, it is official in the strangest possible sense. No one will ever be arrested for any of it. The fox with 9 faces did not escape justice. He outlived it. What does a country do with a crime that never ends and never resolves? It changes, quietly, in the small places. The tamper-proof seal on almost every food package you have ever opened. The plastic film. The safety button on the jar lid that pops. That world exists in large part because of cases like this one. The candy aisle was rebuilt, package by package, so that no one could ever again hide death in it with a typewriter and a sticker. It is a strange legacy. A crime with no convictions that redesigned the way half the planet wraps food. The police changed too. The jurisdictional seams the fox played like an instrument were stitched tighter. The humiliation became curriculum. Officers who were children during the panic studied the case at the academy, taught by instructors who still could not tell them who did it. And the theories never stopped. The insider, the syndicate, the stock manipulator, the radicals. In the decades since, journalists and retired detectives have written shelves of books, each one arriving confident and ending in the same fog. Every few years, someone announces a deathbed confession, a new analysis, a name, and every time, it dissolves under scrutiny. The case is a mirror. Whatever you believe about money, power, or institutions, you can find it in there, looking back. Mishima retired without an answer. He is said to keep a copy of the composite sketch, the fox-eyed man, the most famous face in the country's criminal history. A face that has now aged 40 years in the national imagination, without ever acquiring a name. Somewhere, if he is still alive, is a man who knows that his eyes once stopped a nation's heart. He has watched the statutes expire. He has, perhaps, stood in a convenience store line behind a mother buying chocolate for her child. Unnoticed, ordinary, invisible. That is the ending this story refuses to soften. The monster was never caught, never named, never understood. He asked 100 million people to forget about him. They never did. And that, for a criminal who wanted an audience more than he ever wanted money, may be the only sentence he ever intended to serve.